Good morning and welcome to Morning Movie News, where last night Bond trolled the US by announcing a release date in the US for Bond 25, but then adding it would open in the UK and lots of other places beforehand, as it traditionally does. Trying to make sure that, I think that's nice, I guess. I mean, the US still remains the biggest movie market, followed closely by China when it comes to box office. But Bond is very much a UK brand, and they always release the trailers to favor the UK time zone, etc. And it's kind of their thing, which I think is nice. But, you know, it was a pretty trolly thing overall, the announcement of this release date, November 8th, 2019, because they don't have a distributor yet. So they were also like, yeah, this is when Bond comes out, and whoever distributes the movie, it's rumored to be down to Sony and Warner Brothers, more on that in a moment, but you guys are going to have to release this movie November 8th. Sony, which doesn't have a lot of movies, I'm sure, is like, okay, anything to keep Bond at Sony. But Warner Brothers, around that time, has their own film slated, most likely a DC film, and so they'd have to do a little bit of juggling. But considering the fact that it's no secret that Barbara Broccoli is trying to do a Daniel Craig, Christopher Nolan combo here, and Christopher Nolan, you know, is WB's guy, Warner Brothers' guy, I think they would make a lot of allowances to get this film. And it might favor them eventually. If Nolan does end up doing Bond 25, he could say, you know, I'd like the franchise to go to Warner Brothers. We have a great history. They take care of me over there. And then Sony would be like, God damn it! All we have is Spider-Man, and we have to share it with Disney, and it's still not doing as well as the other Marvel movies. But anyway, Bond 25 is set for November 8th, 2019, and the only other thing on that date is a Disney live-action movie to be determined. Everything around there is to be determined. So what makes Bond unique, and what's always a crowded slate, is that it's the only film that you legit know what it is. But you don't know who's in it or who's making it, because again, the director isn't signed, and Daniel Craig, even though it's been rumored that he's going to do 2 more, I think they're offering him like $150 million or something for 2 more movies. Is he holding out for more money? I think he could get it, to be perfectly honest with you, but nobody is officially on board. But they must be pretty close to contracts if they're willing to date the film. The other thing is that the reason that Bond took this date is because that's when all the Bond movies have opened. Every single Daniel Craig Bond movie has opened in November, and the last 2 opened the same weekend, which is basically the second weekend of November. So that date works. I'm talking about Skyfall, the only Bond movie to make it into the $1 billion club. Didn't love Skyfall when I first saw it, but I recently rewatched it, and it has an amazing rewatchability factor. And of course, Sam Mendes was just copying Nolan anyway. So let's have a legit Nolan Bond movie. And of course, Nolan really wants to do it. And then Spectre, which I enjoyed, it's going to be weird. I thought Spectre really ended Craig's run, so I don't know how they're going to creatively, I mean, who cares? He's a great Bond. But still, that also came out at the same time, and it did very well, but it didn't make $1 billion. So I'm curious, what do you think of the trolley announcement? What do you think of Bond's allegiance to the UK? You know, even though that's not the biggest movie market. The UK is a big movie market, but it's nowhere near the US and China. In fact, Russia and Mexico, and even Australia to some degree, are a little bit bigger. But anyway, that's the first story of the day. And then the second story of the day, I love this story. It's about Superman's stash. Superman doesn't have a stash, right? I'm talking about Mustache, of course, and that's exactly the problem. So this was a story that trended yesterday. Variety broke a really in-depth story about the reshoots for Justice League, and there's a whole lot of information to take away from it. But the funnest headline was that they have to digitally remove Henry Cavill's mustache that he's grown for Mission Impossible 6, which he's currently shooting. And it's just absolutely hilarious that the poor VFX team is going to have to go in there and remove every single hair. I actually know the VFX guys. I didn't make the connection, and so I'm going to totally email them and be like, you guys, are you the ones that have to remove it? DJ and Brian? That's crazy. All right, so anyway, so let's go into some details on these reshoots. They're spending $25 million on the reshoots because they're extensive. It's usually just $6 to $10 million. So this is more than double. That's on the high end. So that's a very big deal. However, it is noted in the article that this has become the norm, not just for Warner Brothers, but for most studios these days to put this into their scheduling. I guess post Justice League. Justice League is really close to, they're really cutting it close here with their November release date, and they're still in the middle of reshoots. And I'm sure because it's a superhero movie, they're all very VFX intensive. Henry Cavill's mustache alone. Oh, that's so bad. So anyway, going forward, apparently they're going to start scheduling time for reshoots because they're going to assume they're given, and also extra money, so that's not a surprise. Now, the article was a little bit of a bummer because it was like, Ben Affleck and Gal Gadot have no other commitments, so they're totally available for the reshoots. And you're like, aw. And then Jason Momoa, though, of course, is making Aquaman, so they are happy to make him available because it's a Warner Brothers picture, same cinematic universe. And Ezra Miller is working on Fantastic Beasts, which is also, it's not the same cinematic universe, but it's also a Warner Brothers picture, so they're happy to make him available there. They said it was a bit of a struggle, though, because he has a larger role in the sequel. How exciting is that? But they're making it work. The real problem is Cavill, because he's in the middle of shooting Mission Impossible 6 and he grew a natural mustache for the movie, right? We don't know fake mustaches. One of my favorite Family Guy quotes is Brian owes Stewie money and he's beating him up and he's like, you got money for fake mustaches, pay me. It was so funny. But anyway, Paramount won't let him shave. I'm sure Warner Brothers was like, could you just put a fake mustache on him? They're like, no, the audience will know. We're shooting this in IMAX, damn it. So they just absolutely refused. And I can see that because then the expense could potentially fall on them to correct any problems with the mustache. Maybe they have some stunt-heavy sequences themselves to do. That fake mustache. I mean, fake mustaches can't even stay on Saturday Night Live. Although, of course, they don't have as much time to apply them. But Paramount was like, no freaking way. He's contractually obligated to keep that damn mustache. So he can't shave. So Warner Brothers is stuck and they have to remove it. But I have to say, the fact that this is such a headache that's headline-worthy means there must be a lot of Superman in the movie, or they're adding a lot of Superman, which is exciting. I know a lot of us, including myself, are very excited to see him, but he better be wearing the damn black suit. And in fact, as long as they're in there digitally deleting the mustache, they can change the color if they made a mistake and didn't put him in it, right? But we'll see what happens. But it's a really interesting story. I wouldn't be too concerned about reshoots. I think that 2 recent movies have been fixed to be fantastic with reshoots. I'm talking about Rogue One, which I absolutely adored, and then even World War Z. I know not everybody loved World War Z, but I think largely people didn't like World War Z because it wasn't like the book. You know, you just couldn't get over that, which I totally understand. But I think as someone who didn't read the book, I loved it. As I've said before, it was Vanity Fair, the zombie movie. It was just absolutely fabulous. I really liked it, and I thought that the ending was really good. So, and that movie, even, no matter how people might feel about it, from an opinion standpoint, box office wise, it was very successful, and still to date the most successful movie that Brad Pitt has ever made. And they're making a sequel with David Fincher, so you're all going to get on the World War Z bandwagon eventually. So that's the second story of the day. Now, the third story of the day is that Sarah Paulson, her star continues to rise. Good for her. We've been talking about it. It's a marathon, not a sprint when it comes to jobs, particularly in Hollywood, in life in general, but Hollywood always makes it seem like everyone's an overnight success. But Sarah Paulson, she's paid her dues, and she owes a lot to Ryan Murphy, which she's totally aware of. She always thanks him whenever she's winning another award, which she also deserves. But Ryan Murphy, of course, gave her some really amazing roles on not only American Horror Story, but also on American Crime Story, the O.J. Simpson trial, where she played Marcia Clark, and just such a phenomenal job. I mean, if you haven't seen American Crime Story, you are really missing out. So anyway, that's where, a whole bunch of upcoming actors that you're going to be seeing came from. It's a big deal. So anyway, she has in Ocean's 8. She's in the upcoming Ocean's 8 movie, which I'm a little nervous about. We all are. We don't want another Ghostbusters situation because it's an all-female remake of a previously all-male movie. And she's also in The Papers, which is Steven Spielberg's political film with Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep. And I think in today's climate, I wouldn't want to be anywhere near a political film, quite frankly. But, Sarah Paulson wants to get into movies. I mean, she's made movies before. But, we talked just yesterday about the difference between a TV and a movie actor, and she's trying to make the move to being a movie actor. She has so many awards at this point, I think she has got a good shot at it. But then, this is the big headline. It was just announced that she signed on for Glass, M. Night Shyamalan's sequel to Unbreakable and Split. That's a great movie to be associated with. I hope she has a good role. I hope she has superpowers, maybe. I would hate to think that she's the Toni Collette of, The Sixth Sense, I think that was Toni Collette. Yeah, I think it was. The mom, the wife, the nurse, so someone has the love interest, a boring role, right? We should be able to move past that at this point. All roles should be interesting. I think it's certainly doable. And I know I just mention Wonder Woman all the time, but they managed to do it in Wonder Woman, when they flipped the script. I think, Steve Trevor was still a great role. So this is, of course, the M. Night Shyamalan film, reuniting Samuel L. Jackson and Bruce Willis, now bringing in James McAvoy and Anya Taylor-Joy from split. And this also comes out in 2019, and Sarah Paulson will be part of the cast as well. It comes out in January 2019. All right, so those are the 3 stories of the day, and I have a viewer question from Longclaw. That's a great name. So this is a long one. It's about the Infinity War trailer, though. So Longclaw says, I have 3 viewer questions about the Avengers Infinity War trailer leak. Please don't spoil anything from the leak if you've seen it. I have not seen the leak because when they eventually do release it, and they said the reason they haven't released it, the Russo brothers, is because they're working very hard to make sure the VFX are all in good shape for frame-by-frame analysis, right? So it's going to take some time. But when it does come out officially, I want to be able to legit react, so I'm not watching the leaked version. So Longclaw asks, 1, will the leak affect the amount of views the trailer will get when it's officially released? I think that's a very good point, and I think that is true. I think that it will certainly get a lot of views, but maybe not to the level that it would have if it had been released simultaneously with its D23 debut. It's always great to be able to top the list of most viewed trailers in the first 24 hours. Thor Ragnarok's on there, and I don't know if Infinity War will be able to do it. Maybe everyone will be freeze-framing it, and it'll be able to withstand the scrutiny at that point, so it'll do great, but we'll see. Then the next question is, when do you think Marvel will release the trailer? Please mention the part of the month like mid-October or end of September or start of August. That's very specific, Longclaw. I think nobody can know for sure. Probably, if I had to guess, it would be around Thor Ragnarok. They don't want to overshadow Thor Ragnarok, which is on fire. I mean, I know it has been leaked, but Marvel is pretty good at sticking to their guns. So, I wouldn't be surprised if they waited till around Thor Ragnarok, just to get everybody really excited about that. And that's usually the way it works. You release, that could be for another, there's no big comic book movies coming up before Thor Ragnarok. Maybe with Kingsman, but I just don't see it. I think it's going to be a Thor Ragnarok. Or maybe, Justice League. I think maybe Justice League does. I forget which one comes out first. But, around there, that's probably when we're going to get it. And then number 3 is, do you think the decision of showing the trailer at Comic-Con and D23 and still not releasing it to the rest of the world was good? Didn't they think that somehow people would manage to escape the security and leak the trailer? Which they did. That's really a shame, though. I think they're going to have to start collecting phones at Comic-Con as they do at D23, or Marvel will just stop showing things there. I think that's, I don't know. It's not their event, so it's harder for them to control at Comic-Con. Also, when they came to know that the trailer was released, shouldn't they have released the trailer immediately? No, I don't think that Marvel does that. Marvel doesn't bend to the will of the internets. They have a decision to make, and I think Kevin Feige is a big enough Hollywood titan and fan titan that he can do whatever he wants. I'm against not releasing things simultaneously. I think things always leak. People always read the descriptions. And I think it's not a good idea. I think that, if they wanted to make sure that the trailer was ready to be scrutinized frame by frame, it should have been ready for D23, and they should have released it at the same time. Luckily, the Thor Ragnarok trailer was amazing, the second one for Comic-Con, and that kind of took some of the heat off of their decision not to release the Infinity War trailer. So anyway, that's today's morning movie news. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please write down below what you think of today's top 3 stories, Longclaw's multi-tiered viewer question, anything you'd like to see covered tomorrow, and any questions that you might have. Thanks for watching. Bye.